And welcome back to another edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I am host Sean Meyers, and tonight I'll have a very special guest, Matt Vandriak, a ring announcer for many promotions in the Pittsburgh area. He'll talk about WrestleRex and everything else involving independent wrestling in the area. That's tonight on the next edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. And welcome back to another show. I am your host, Sean Meyers, making a return. And I have a very special guest joining me, second time on the podcast for one, Matt Vandriak. Matt, thank you for taking the time. I know I personally have been incredibly busy, and unfortunately, actually, I've missed a couple of shows recently. But you and I definitely, dating back to about 3 months ago, wanted to get together and talk about some big shows upcoming. And before we get into more specifics about some of the shows, including the third installment of WrestleRex, your role has sort of evolved since the last time we talked. At that point, you were sort of new to ring announcing, and I think maybe just doing your second or third show. That has changed drastically. It seems like almost every weekend you're involved with some wrestling show. What has your schedule been like, and what's it going to be over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, definitely gotten a little bit busier, Sean. Got some more shows through the promoters that have been doing WrestleRex and some of the other shows. Of course, always making it a point to go out and see some good independent shows. I've actually traveled up to Erie and Altoona to see shows. And, busy coming up here. I have a wrestling show through Pros of Wrestling on Saturday the 19th. It's going to be outdoor at LaDon Plaza, the Rumble on Route 30 in North Huntington. It's going to be 6 good matches, followed up with a lot of other stuff. There's music, a lot of interactive stuff as well. That's a benefit for the North Huntington Police Department. And then, of course, WrestleRex is on Thursday, the 24th, at the Rex Theater. And, yeah, it's been busy. And, of course, between that and attending shows, I've had a very full couple of months of wrestling, and no doubt about that.
And you mentioned the Route 30 event and the Rumble on Route 30. That is your former stomping grounds, right? So an area where you maybe already have some friends that are going to make it out to the show. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But last time we had you on, you talked about WrestleRex, and it was going to be the second show upcoming down in the South Side in Pittsburgh. I was not able to make it, but I did catch the last match online. And afterwards, I really regretted not finding a way to get there. I talked to a few people. I was kind of surprised that I knew as many people who went. That it turned out that it seemed like it was a really good show. Everyone I talked to absolutely loved it, and it seemed like they were interested in going again. They're going to get that opportunity in a week's time.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good show, and I think the cool thing about this WrestleRex, too, is we're piggybacking the day after AEW makes their debut in Pittsburgh. So if you've liked what AEW brings, if you've enjoyed the show so far, and I've enjoyed what they've brought so far, you're going to get to see the same caliber of talent, but right in your backyard. So WrestleRex this time around, we have 6 matches this time. A lot of good international talent, good national talent, and good local talent, all blended together in your backyard. So it's right on Carson Street. It's right at the Rex Theater. It's a Thursday night. It's October. It's the week before Halloween. What more can you ask for? It's wrestling and a rock show all rolled into one. And if you're going to AEW the night before, get your wrestling fix continued by coming out to WrestleRex on Thursday night.
And you mentioned that there's some correlations between those type of shows. It's a lot different than maybe people who just watch wrestling on TV, and in particular WWE, because WrestleRex, it's really up close and personal. And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of crowd interaction. You're a part of that, trying to encourage that. You've seen this grow from the first WrestleRex, which I believe was in February, the second one over the summer that we talked about. And the talent has been pretty immense through those first 2 shows. Of course, the Lucha Bros, probably the most famous, but there's been a lot of notable names, and that's going to continue this time around. So before we get into maybe the specific matches, who are some of the names that people are going to be familiar with for this third installment of WrestleRex?
Well, the main event is going to be very familiar to people of the Attitude Era, because Gangrel's going to be in that. Of course, what more fitting could you have for a pre-Halloween show than Gangrel? He's going to take on the former La Parka, now known as L.A. Park. That's your main event match for the evening. So there's 2 big names right there. Fans that have more international flavor will know Sam Adonis. They'll also know that he's going to be working a tag match with Joe Doring from All Japan Pro Wrestling. So you got those guys going there. Facade, local and international superstar is going to be in. Jason Kincaid's going to be a part of that. Hijo de LA Park is going to be a part of the show as well. And we'll have a lot of local guys in there as well as some other names. So definitely it's a different flavor every time. But when you get LA Park against Gangrel as your main event for a Halloween show, I think there's nothing more fitting than that. Of course, LA Park and his son El Hijo de LA Park still working strong as a tag team right now in Major League Wrestling. So if you want a chance to see those guys up close, maybe want to revisit some of the lucha times of the late 90s in WCW when the chairman was still there.
I was going to say, does he still do the same chair gimmick and everything? Is that?
He might do it. I don't know. Will Gangrel still spew the blood? We're hoping for both of those things for the Halloween show. But we had Super Crazy in last time, so you're getting a good feel of still like the lucha legendary guys will still be there. But a great main event match, and overall just a great show. Like I said, 6 matches we'll have for you. And definitely going to rank up there. Some surprises as well, I think. So definitely one you don't want to miss.
You mentioned a couple other names that I'm familiar with from watching Ring of Honor and, of course, going to some shows in this Pittsburgh area with Facade, who is a very local guy, but he's expanded and he's, I believe, competed internationally, if not certainly all across the country. And he's been seen on Ring of Honor a handful of times, especially when they've come to this area. And Kincaid's another guy that I've seen on there. So maybe not guys that you saw in the highest level, sort of like Gangrel was in WWF at the time, but guys who are still well known, and a real treat anytime you get to watch them perform, because quite frankly, they're not just local guys now. They've expanded, much like Sam Adonis, where it's sort of a homecoming, but when they come to Pittsburgh, you got to make the effort to go see him, because you might not be able to see him for quite some time after Thursday.
Yeah, Facade is more international than he is national. This guy, I think, has wrestled in more countries than most people know about. So that's where Facade's been. But he's going to be part of a 6-man scramble. Good national, international, and local talent in that. Facade being the headliner. El Hijo de LA Park being a part of that match. Then you'll have Jason Kincaid as part of that match. Also Johnny Patch, who's a good local superstar. Gory, who's a good local superstar. And when you mix all that stuff in together, also Lee Moriarty, one of the most underrated guys, I think, in local wrestling. Lee Moriarty is a tremendous wrestler. That rounds out your 6-pack challenge for that match. So you get those guys all in the ring together, it's going to be magic. And like you said, Sean, there's no boundaries at WrestleRex, so we don't have barriers. We don't have seats. People get right up against the ring. There's probably a good chance this guy right here might be saying, we need you all to move back from this match because you may be in the line of fire.
What else stands out about WrestleRex, and how have you seen the show evolve from the first to the second and now heading into the third show?
I think the evolving of it has been that we're starting to actually grasp what we're trying to do. We want to make this different than just your average wrestling show. Having international wrestlers, having big names on that's great. Having the Lucha Brothers for the first show, having Super Crazy as part of the second show, having Hornswoggle as part of the second show. Those are all known names. Of course, having LA Park and Gangrel as part of the third show. That's good stuff. But I think we want to kind of separate it from this isn't what your average wrestling show is. We want wrestling fans to come. Absolutely. We want fans of the Attitude Era. We want fans of the old Nitro era. We want, local fans. We want independent fans. We want a lot of wrestling fans there. We just want people who are fans of having a good time. If you're not a huge wrestling fan, you're still going to have fun at WrestleRex, because the atmosphere is like it's like second to none. There's an atmosphere in the Rex Theater. It's like a rock concert crosses professional wrestling with a bunch of other stuff mixed in. So if you can get out for that show, even if you're not the most hardcore wrestling fan, if you're just looking for a good time on a Thursday night, come out and check it out. We have great sponsors. Of course, Iron City Beer sponsoring the show. So if you're from Pittsburgh, you got to get your fill of Iron City. But we also have Cyclops Tattoo on this time. Anybody who buys a ticket for WrestleRex gets a 10% off on their next tattoo or piercing at Cyclops. We're trying to, bring the South Side, bring the community together, and make this more like a community event, and really just, I think, as you were saying earlier, Sean, people who have been to those shows before, what they don't feel like that was a great wrestling show. They feel like that was just a great environment and a great show overall. When you can grasp that and bring that in, that's what I think WrestleRex evolved from, was being wrestling in the South Side, just being a great night on the South Side that just happens to have awesome wrestling as part of it.
And it's interesting you said that, because I said I was surprised that I knew as many people as I did who went to the show. 2 of them were females who I had no idea were wrestling fans, and maybe aren't wrestling fans in the truest sense, but they still went out and they said, yeah, it was a blast, and I saw they were posting it on Snapchat, Instagram, so on. It seems like it should be a fun time. You've already ran through some of the matches. Any other matches you want to include as far as tying that up, and then what people need to know if they are interested in going?
Absolutely. The main event, local favorites, they're going to be there again. The main event's been a part of all of the WrestleRexes, and they'll be back as part of it again. A couple other guys who've been part of the previous two shows. Bolin will wrestle Beastman at the show, so a lot of people know John Bolin.
Is he going to be parading around the South Side again, Beastman?
We're going to work on the possibility of Beastman doing something outlandish, but we can't go too far on that. Of course, I mean, Beastman, something got to happen with that. He's going to wrestle Bolin at this show. We just mentioned the six-pack scramble. That's going to be a great match in itself. Sam Adonis and Joe Doring are joining forces. The two guys who have wrestled together and against each other in All Japan Pro Wrestling. They're going to team up to take on two local guys who are, very popular, very big followings. Bulk Nasty, one of the best heels, if you will, around Pittsburgh. The guy just generates so much heat.
He's a big boy too. I've seen him. He is
288 pounds of human crime scene. And then his tag team partner is going to be Jimmy Vegas, another Pittsburgh legend. So those two together against Sam and Joe Doring, that's going to be a hard-hitting match. I mentioned the LA Park, of course, against Gangrel main event. Going to have a women's match for the first time. We're going to have Lady Frost, who, if you've been watching Ring of Honor or Women of Honor, you've seen Lady Frost. Of course, she made her big-time debut about a year or so ago when she wrestled on Monday Night Raw against Asuka. She's
probably
been working
didn't turn
hard.
out too well for her in the end, I'm guessing, huh?
That one didn't work out so well, but she's done a nice job. She actually wrestled Kelly Klein for the Women of Honor title at the ROH show that was at Stage A in the spring. And she's been working with Women of Honor and Ring of Honor, and will be back in Pittsburgh for that match. She's going to take on Ray Lynn. And Ray Lynn has worked internationally herself, a couple of recent tours of Japan and China. And then Ray Lynn also has worked on Women of Wrestling, and she's also been on ROH as well. So you're going to have that match. Two girls who have contended for the Women of Honor title in recent memory going against each other in our first singles women's match at WrestleRex as well.
And I want to touch on Jimmy Vegas quickly, because I remember the first independent wrestling show I ever went to, and you're probably going to predate me with this, but I believe it was 2002. And I went to IWC, International Wrestling Cartel. You're very familiar with that promotion. It's still going, now based typically out of Elizabeth. At the time, it was Monroeville. So I went to the show, living in Plum, and it was an incredible show. It was the first ever Super Indie tournament, which I believe they still continue to have to this day.
They'll do,
and
yes, sir.
it was absolutely loaded. CM Punk was in it. Colt Cabana was in it. Christopher Daniels was in it. Low Key was in it. Chris Hero, now Cassius Ohno, was in it. I believe Super Hentai won it. But I remember there were some also ECW guys who were there that night, Balls Mahoney, and I believe maybe the Sandman. The IWC champion at the time was Jimmy Vegas. And, that's going back more than 15 years. But he was a big name then, and he's probably even bigger, both in terms of people recognizing Jimmy Vegas and the fact that he's still absolutely a monstrous individual and a guy who legitimately could probably beat up anyone that comes across him. So I always enjoy seeing Jimmy, and again, probably closing in on 20 years wrestling in Pittsburgh and doing it at a high level. So he's a guy that, if you don't know him, certainly get out and see him, because he's going to go down as one of the better independent wrestlers, I would say, in this area.
Yeah, Jimmy Vegas is one of those guys, like you said, Sean. He just has longevity. He's just been around. It's not just IWC. He's worked in so many different areas around the Pittsburgh, around Pittsburgh, that if you've been to an independent show in Pittsburgh, as you said, in the last 20 years, you've probably seen Jimmy Vegas in some capacity. And even though, like you said, he's had a long career now, he's still one of those guys that's 275 pounds. He's still in great shape, and he still can go. And to see the dynamic of a guy like Jimmy Vegas, who's one of the, if you will, founding fathers of independent wrestling, and a guy like Bulk Nasty.
That would be a good name for one of his stables, huh? Founding fathers.
one of the newer guys with Bulk Nasty, who is more or less the modern day version of Jimmy Vegas. And for those guys to get in the ring with international superstars like Sam Adonis and Joe Doring, it's going to be it's going to be a great match. Those are four big guys, in particular Vegas and Bulk Nasty. Joe Doring is huge, 6'7", 300 pounds. If you're not familiar with Joe Doring, I highly recommend it. If you want to YouTube a good Joe Doring match, YouTube Joe Doring versus Sam Adonis from the All Japan show that was happening in the spring. Those guys had some hard-hitting matches, but to work together, and they've been on tag teams before against two local guys that are as big and as mean and as well-known as Vegas and Nasty are, that's going to be a great match all in itself. Definitely going to be a hard-hitting match. Definitely going to be a good one.
I want to quickly touch on Sam Adonis. When we had you on before, you went into the story about how you met him, how you became involved as a ring announcer, and really credited him for getting the ball rolling there. I actually had a chance to talk to him probably about a month or so after the last WrestleRex. I saw him down on the North Shore, and I went up and talked to him. He was very friendly, and we went back and forth about, the shows. And he made a point of saying, like, it's not about this show, and me running it or, taking credit for it or anything like that. He just wants to see these shows happen. He doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He doesn't maybe want that, but I think we need to give him credit for the job he's done. And I know he's not working alone, but this was really, he kind of took the lead on creating this from the beginning and making it all happen. So how much work has he put into this, and how much, I guess, credit does he deserve for it all coming together in the end?
Well, enough credit for me to rock this cool Sam Adonis t-shirt first.
Nice.
On top of that, yeah, Sam works really hard to bring this wrestling, and not just these shows, but other shows around the area. And, it's almost working with him, his passion and his desire. It is, I mean, if you can't buy into that, then you really don't want to be a part of good wrestling. He wants this to succeed, not just so much for WrestleRex, not just for his own doing, but this is an opportunity for a lot of really good local wrestlers to get in there with international, national, and former big company superstars and show what they've got. And that's where Sam's passion is. It's not about himself, like you said, Sean. His passion is for the wrestling business. And he wants wrestling in Pittsburgh to just be the best that it possibly can be. And I think that what he's doing with WrestleRex is that he's bringing a lot of guys that he's worked with around the world into Pittsburgh.
Right.
So the home, not just the home wrestlers, but the home crowd can see how great professional wrestling is around the world and get a chance to interact and be a part of that in person. And that's the thing about WrestleRex is that the Lucha Brothers were here. You could see that. And the last time the match that stole the show was Soberano Jr. and Templario, and those are two CMLL guys that probably never would have wrestled against each other in Pittsburgh without that. And this time around, we're bringing in Joe Doring. You have L.A. Park. You have Gangrel coming in. You have great women's wrestling, an awesome six-pack challenge, and then some of the local guys that we've seen as well. It just makes a great show and just gives an opportunity for not just, like I said, local wrestlers to mark themselves against some of the better talent around the world, but for local fans to get to see that and feel that close up. And that's where the energy comes from. It's such an exciting event, and there's so many good things going on that it really is a rock concert and a wrestling show rolled into one. And I think that's kind of what the vision was for these shows. And I mean, I'm really happy to be a part of it. But if you've never experienced WrestleRex, you got to get there. You got to feel it, because it is more than just professional wrestling. It's just a really great show and a lot of stuff all tied into one that makes for a really great night. And like you said, people that aren't hardcore wrestling fans will still have a good time at the show because of just the energy and all the components combined for that.
All right, so let's let everyone know if they're interested. I'll put the graphic up, but about a week's time before this show happens, we're recording this on Wednesday night. It'll be next Thursday in the South Side at the Rex Theater. For people who are interested, one, is there still tickets available? Two, how do they go about getting into this show?
There are tickets still available. You can buy the tickets at the door. We will have tickets available at the door. There's also tickets available on the Rex Theater website. You can go to the WrestleRex Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Click on the link there. You'll be able to buy tickets through there. And there's also, you can call the Rex Theater for tickets as well. But you're encouraged to buy tickets in advance, obviously. There are only a limited number of VIP seats. So if you want the VIP seats, I would definitely recommend getting those in advance. But as far as the general admission tickets go, you can get those through any of the avenues I just said. You can go to the Rex Theater website. You can call the Rex Theater. You can go to any of the WrestleRex handles on social media and get the tickets through that. The thing with general admission, though, is it's first come, first serve. We don't have seats. We don't have ring guardrails and that.
8 o'clock bell time. So what would you suggest?
I'd suggest you get there early and buy your tickets in advance, or I suggest you either get there really early or buy your tickets in advance, because if you're going to go VIP, definitely get them in advance. Like I said, there's a limited number of those. I know that we've sold a good bit of those. Those are the only actual seats that we technically have. Those are on the stage, right where the wrestlers come out. You're right on, right next to the ring on the entry level side. So if you want VIP, get those beforehand. But if you're going to go GA, I would still recommend getting the tickets in advance. But whether you get them in advance or buy them at the door, make sure you get there early. Doors open at 6:30, so make sure that you're there to get them early, because it's first come, first serve. The best seat or space in the house depends on what time you get there. We want to get you as close to the ring as you can to enjoy the experience.
Certainly looking forward to that. Again, next Thursday, WrestleRex, and you can find that information. We'll put the graphic up one last time later tonight. But that's not the only show you're involved with. You mentioned briefly Rumble on Route 30. That's going to be even sooner. That's coming this weekend. So talk a little bit about that show.
Yes, Saturday night, the Rumble on Route 30 in North Huntington. It's going to be at the Ladon Plaza. One of the featured sponsors is Inferno Pizza, who's also housed in that plaza. We're going to have an outdoor show, so the ring's going to be out in the parking lot at the plaza. It's all a benefit for the North Huntington Police Department, so it's for a great cause. And Inferno Pizza is going to be there. We're going to have Iron City Beer, of course, being there sponsoring the show. 6 matches is being part of it. It starts at 2 o'clock, so it's 2 in the afternoon till 5 p.m. We're going to have 6 matches for you in a 3-hour time frame. And then afterwards, a local cover band some of the guys are from Irwin, but Trace Lads will play from 5 until 8. If you remember the band Grapevine, Sean, from the Attitude Era of professional wrestling, some of the guys from Trace Lads are Grapevine. So they'll be there playing a great music show afterwards. But the wrestling's from 2 to 5. Main event of the night is going to be Irwin's own Jason Tyler. He's going to team with Sam Adonis. They're going to take on the aforementioned Bulk Nasty and another one of the local guys who have been around for a long time, carved a legacy in Pittsburgh, the Golden Boy Dennis Gregory. So Sam Adonis and Jason Tyler versus Dennis Gregory and Bulk Nasty, your main event. And that'll be a great way to close out the night, or close out the afternoon. Then great music afterwards. The North Huntington Police Department doing a lot of demonstrations and stuff through the day. It's a really fun, family-oriented afternoon. So WrestleRex is maybe a little more PG-13. The Rumble on Route 30 is definitely a family-friendly event. And in conjunction with the North Huntington Police Department, with Inferno Pizzeria and some other local sponsors, and then, music afterwards with Trace Lads, it's going to be a really good afternoon and evening of family fun entertainment on Route 30 North Huntington. And for a good cause, too.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Looking forward to that. And let's kind of shift to you a little bit, because I mentioned at the onset, you started as the ring announcer for WrestleRex, and you said, first show, I didn't know exactly what to expect. They wanted me to be a little bit different. I've seen you now. I saw you at a show probably about 2 months ago in Monroeville. But I know you've gone out of the state. You've gone to the middle of Pennsylvania. So how has this grown for you? How have you sort of changed and developed your own style over the past 6 or so months as a ring announcer? And what is your favorite part about being involved?
This all, Sean, came out of nowhere. Like I said, it was kind of like, you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And then I guess I did all right at it, because they asked me to come back. And then I got a couple other bookings out of that. And like you said, I've been able to get some other shows, especially, recently we did one in North Huntington and Hartford Heights. It was through the same promoter, Pros of Wrestling. They're going to do the show on the 19th, this coming Saturday. It's just been a blast. I think my style is that I don't really have a style. I'm just myself. I don't want to sound like Gary Michael Capetta, introduce you to the greatest wrestlers ever. I just want to be myself and let you feel the energy, because I'm feeling it too. I'm still a wrestling fan. And I think that's the coolest part of what I'm doing, is that I'm getting to be a fan in the ring, bring you that same fan energy, and try to get people to interact with me. And that's really what has been, it's been amazing. You talked about the show in Monroeville. I'm in the ring introducing Jerry Lawler, Billy Gunn, and Mick Foley. That's the 3rd time I've been a professional wrestling announcer. So that's craziness to me. It's like, I watched these guys when I was in high school and college, and now I'm out here with them. And that was a surreal moment for me that night in Monroeville. But getting to these other shows, getting to know these guys more, it's just fun that I get to actually be a part of the show and more or less be the first person the crowd sees, to be the one that comes out and gets them to be excited, to get them to, to buy into what we're going to do that night. And I think when they feel that my energy is actually real energy, it's not a part of the show, it's not an act, I'm excited to be out there. People can feel that, they buy into it. It brings an exciting vibe to it. Like I said, it's going to be really cool on Saturday. We're looking forward to working with this show and being a part of a really good cause for the North Huntington Police Department. And then WrestleRex next Thursday. I mean, that's where I can maybe be a little more, I guess, adultish as far as the mic skills go. But
I've heard adult words come out of your mouth in the past at wrestling shows as well. So
you probably heard them pregame at high school football games as well. But those don't go over the air. But yeah, it's going to just be fun. And it for me, like I said, the coolest part is that I am still a big fan of wrestling. As you mentioned, I go to a lot of shows all around the area. I still love supporting independent wrestling as a fan. But for me to be able to get in the ring and share my energy and my excitement with the crowd and get them to give that energy back, it's one of the coolest feelings. I mean, I've thought about that before. Like I'm in the ring interacting with other people, but it never hits me what I'm actually doing till afterwards. I stop back and think like, wow, I just did that. That's pretty cool. And I hope that shows when I do the show, whenever I'm in the ring being a part of the shows as well.
One thing I wanted to touch on, and help me out with this, was it Northeast Wrestling? What was the show that was in Monroeville?
Northeast Wrestling, okay. Yes.
So when we went to that show, myself and one of my friends, and we saw you there, I believe one of the matches, I think it was Darby Allin's match, maybe was like up close and personal where you were at. They came like right where you were situated. So is that your closest encounter to physicality? And is there ever a scenario where maybe Matt Vandriak has to step in the ring for more than just a ring introduction?
Yeah, that's the closest I was. As Darby Allin and JT Dunn as opponent that night wanted to use that table that I was sitting at really bad. So they kind of helped me get out of the way in that occasion. People have asked me that before. Are you ever gonna do anything? You ever gonna like take a bump? And I'm trying to not do that. I'm 43 now, Sean. If I was 23 and 20 pounds heavier, maybe I'd be more interactive to the actual potential of me getting involved at some point. But
hey, after watching Jerry Lawler go 20 minutes against Dylan Bostic, about 8 years removed from a heart attack, you have no excuses.
I'm glad that you want to see that, and some of my other friends see that. I'm not sure anybody else wants to actually see me get involved in a wrestling match. I think the voice and the microphone and doing a little bit, maybe slightly over the top introductions and that, I think we'll stick to that for right now. If the opportunity presents itself, I'm not opposed to it, but you're never going to see me do a split-legged moonsault or anything along those lines. That is definitely never going to happen.
Fair enough. So great stuff as always with that. I did want to kind of get your take on the wrestling industry as a whole, because a lot has changed over the last few months, and I'm thinking some positive, some negative in your eyes. We're about a month in, not even that, but just 3 shows in to All Elite Wrestling as far as being on television. They are coming to Pittsburgh a week from tonight. That's going to be a big happening in this area. So what have you seen so far? What do you think of All Elite Wrestling? And are you overall satisfied with what they've presented to this juncture?
I think that All Elite Wrestling has been good. And it's what people want because they want to change. I mean, it's has been a WWE-dominated wrestling market for the last decade plus now. And it's hard to find any competition. So people are hungry for something different. Now, if you watch the AEW pay-per-views leading up to the TNT show, I think that you most likely were blown away by them because they were really good. I thought they were great. The first show, Sean, I liked it, but I thought it left a little bit to be desired. It seemed like there were some areas where it came up short. I think the second show was better than the first show. I think the second show, especially the Young Bucks Private Party tag match, was just unbelievable. AEW, it's tough to produce and bring that same pay-per-view quality show every week. That's going to be their biggest barrier, finding a way to bring that pay-per-view quality stuff every week. But people are eating it up right now. And what I love about AEW, and I can't wait till the Pittsburgh show because I'll be there for that too, is the crowd. The live crowd is so hot for it. There's so much energy. People are they're eating it up. And that's what you want to see with wrestling. Even if maybe some of the stuff wasn't on point or on par with the first show as maybe you would have expected it to be after what you saw coming into it. Just seeing how happy the crowd is, how excited the crowd is, that's good for wrestling. And that's what you want to see, because if the people are buying the tickets, if the people are happy with the product, if the people are that tuned into it where, they're on the edge of their seats chanting, screaming, yelling all night, then you're doing your job. And that's what professional wrestling on the bigger stage needs. You need to be able to have that. All Elite Wrestling gives you that other alternative now with the TNT television deal to be able to tune into it, go to it. And, I'm excited. I'm excited for 2 reasons. One, because of the energy and the crowd, and because that second show was just so good. But 2, I love the fact that they are really giving a lot of push to tag team wrestling. There are a lot of good tag teams out there that don't get those opportunities. And that if the Young Bucks and the Private Party match are a prelude to what this tag tournament's going to be like, I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to play out next week in Pittsburgh with some of the matches they're going to have there, and then the finals the following week in Charleston.
And I thought when All Elite started to come about that the difference for WWE is they would always win in terms of the women's division because it's absolutely stacked. But it looks like All Elite is clearly focusing on the tag team division, which is something that Vince McMahon has seemingly no interest in doing. So that is a nice alternative if you're into that. They provide something that WWE certainly does not. I think the show for All Elite is pretty similar to NXT and a lot of the same type of fan base, as you mentioned, very rabid fans who absolutely love stuff, whether it's good or bad, they're going to react to it, which is better than crickets that you get on the main roster sometimes. So they go head-to-head every Wednesday, and a lot of people say, well, that's good because it's competition head-to-head. It's going to create people flipping back and forth, which fans haven't done for 20-some years. However, those shows have somewhat rated the talent that is in Ring of Honor, and I know Ring of Honor we've alluded to, creating stars. So many WWE big-time main eventers have come through there. Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, just countless. Seth Rollins even. You could go through probably about a third of the roster. I know Ring of Honor was big for you. Do you see that maybe coming to an end sooner rather than later?
I really hope it doesn't, Sean, because I mean, as you said, I've always said I'm a Ring of Honor guy before WWE, before Impact. That was obviously prior to AEW being available on television. And the one thing about Ring of Honor, which was always good, is the guys you just mentioned. They lost guys like CM Punk. They lost guys, like AJ Styles. They've lost guys like Samoa Joe. They lost the current WWE Tag Team Champions, the Viking Raiders, whenever they were War Machine. They lost, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Undisputed Era.
Right. Roderick Strong, Adam Cole, Tommaso Ciampa. All these guys were ROH guys. They've always been able to rebuild. I don't know what's going on with Ring of Honor right now, but as a diehard Ring of Honor fan, I've been watching ROH television since 2011. And the television format, the way it is right now, I can't even watch it. It is just highlights and backstage stuff and clips and stuff thrown together, maybe one match, which in some cases already aired on Honor Club. So I've probably already seen the match. You're owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. You have the access for the television. The television shows, I think, were the best thing of Ring of Honor wrestling. And pay-per-view buy rates are down. Attendance is down. And I think that correlates directly to the fact that people aren't watching it on television right now because they changed the TV format a couple of months ago. Sean, it's bad. I mean, that's the nicest way to put it. It is just bad. ROH is doing a show in Pittsburgh here on November 2nd. I didn't even know about that show until the weekend I did the show in Hartford Heights. And I used to be on top of ROH shows before the tickets went on sale. This time around, it was like, oh, they're doing a show? But it's not even a television taping. And I don't know if they're trying to go more towards, the Honor Club and online stuff. But ROH always had their strong point was they could always rebuild. After all those guys that we talked about left, other guys stepped in. Marty Scurll stepped in. Flip Gordon stepped in. Then you always have the long-term strongholds like the Briscoe brothers and Jay Lethal and Matt Taven. And then they bring in international guys like Roosh. And they bring in his brother Dragon Lee. And they have the partnership with CMLL. And they have the partnership with New Japan. And they have international stars right now. But nobody's seeing these guys because they're not putting them on television. And the ROH television product needs to go back. The old saying is if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. The TV format was not what was broken. I don't know if maybe it was the booking or other stuff that was broken, but the correlation to me is that you change the TV format and throughout the summer, your pay-per-view buy rates and your live attendance go down. I'm not the smartest man in the world. I'm not a math guy. I'm not a booker. I'm not a professional wrestling as far as running a company goes guru. But I can tell you that if guys like me aren't watching on television, then the casual fans aren't either. And if I don't know there's a show coming to my town, then those who prefer to be a part of wrestling less than I do probably don't either.
And I'll just close it from my perspective because I'm a loyalist to WWE, and I think you know that about me. I think most people know that about me, and I stuck with them against WCW, so on. I want WWE to be better, but I'm always going to stick with it, even when it's not good. I know most people aren't like that. But I did watch Ring of Honor probably for about 3 years straight. I would record it every week. And I didn't watch the pay-per-views. A couple times my friend maybe had me over. But I would always watch the TV show because it was easy to find. You could watch it in about 50 minutes, and it was almost all wrestling. I had to make a decision around the spring. I need to cut out some wrestling because there's so much now. Okay? So there's Raw, there's SmackDown. That's 5+ hours every week. NXT. I was watching 205 Live, which if you're into great wrestling, that was a terrific show for that. NXT UK I've never even gotten to, and I'm sure that's very good. You introduce an extra hour to NXT and bring it to television, and then for people who also want to watch All Elite, you've basically added 3 hours of wrestling each week in addition to all of the pre-existing WWE content. You have to pick and choose, and I think people are picking and choosing not to watch Ring of Honor. I myself, around that time, said, you know what, I'm going to take it off of my DVR because it's just too much. I'm too overwhelmed trying to watch all this wrestling in a week, and there's not just enough time to watch it all. And Ring of Honor, unfortunately for me, was the one that went.
Yeah, Ring of Honor, I mean, not so much in the spring, but like I said, that was their selling point to me. You could watch an hour of Ring of Honor and get 3 or 4 matches in that 60 minutes.
Right, when I stopped watching, the show was still what we think of it as. It was before this change that you have alluded to.
Right, so if fans like you that are big wrestling fans decided that Ring of Honor is not what I want to watch anymore, then how do you think fans feel now when real fans, like you beforehand and now me, I haven't watched Ring of Honor without fast forwarding through most of it probably since June. And it's hard for me to say that because I love Ring of Honor. I want it to succeed. It's been so great in the past, but Ring of Honor has been surpassed, I would say, by Impact now. Now that Impact is on Access TV, they have a bigger, a much better cable deal than they were on Pursuit. Most people didn't even get Pursuit in their cable package. Now you got Access. Now you got Impact on. And like I said, since Don Callis has been back as part of Impact, that's gone leaps and bounds. That's another promotion where guys seem to fall away, but they seem to find a way to retool, and they've done a great job doing that. And Ring of Honor, I think, for me, Ring of Honor for the last 6 years was probably better than Impact. And there were Impact wrestlers like AJ Styles going to Ring of Honor,
right? Because
it was better. Jay Lethal left Impact to go to Ring of Honor, but I don't know what's going on with Ring of Honor now. I don't get too in depth with the behind the scenes or the dirt sheet stuff. I just like to watch good wrestling sometimes. But I think that the change in the television format, Sean, has really hurt their product because people are turning it off. And if you don't know when the shows are coming to your town, like I didn't, you're not going to buy a ticket. And if you're not watching good television product, why are you going to buy a ticket for a pay-per-view for a show that you're not really interested in?
Good point. I want to throw up the graphics again for WrestleRex. We'll do that now. There you see Thursday, October 24th, 8 o'clock. You can check out www.rextheater.net. The phone number's on there as well. And the Rumble on Route 30 with the information as well, taking place at the LaDonna Village. If you're interested in either one of those shows, I will also do my best to include information on the social media accounts right there, 5-Star Pod Wrestle, also on the Instagram, 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I appreciate the time as always, Matt. It was good talking to you, and as long as I still find time to keep doing this show, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to talk to Bobby O at least a couple times every year, just to spread the word about some of the great shows that take place in Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Sean. I mean, I'm always glad to be a part of the podcast with you. Like I said, I mean, I know you're a big fan for the WWE. You do a lot of in-depth stuff. You have some really good insight on a lot of WWE stuff that I've seen on previous podcasts. But I like that you're branching out and bringing in these local shows as well. I know you've had Bobby O on. I've been on. You've had Harley T. Morris, a local professional wrestler.
Facade's on my to-do list, by the way. I have a real interest in getting Facade on. I've known him for a while, and I have some mutual friends. I'm sure maybe you could also kind of make that happen. But, yeah, I would love to get a lot of these wrestlers in the area as long as, it's timely and it fits in. And to your point, yeah, anything I can do to reach out to new fans or to maybe introduce fans to a new style of wrestling or a new promotion, I'm all about it because I've gone to a lot of different shows over, the past 20 plus years.
Yeah, you definitely have. Like I said, it's definitely a great thing. And I mean, if anything I can do to help you get guys on to, I know that a lot of local wrestlers would love to have the outlet just to talk so people get a chance to see who they are. And like I said, for me coming on, I mean, I've known you for a long time. I mean, as a friend, I'll come on whenever you want me to. But for me to come on, I'm not trying to push myself. I mean, whatever. I want people to come out and see how good local wrestling is right now. There's a lot of great promotions around Western Pennsylvania. There's a lot of great promotions right now around the tri-state area. But for people to come on and guys like us who go to different shows, we see probably a lot more wrestling than a lot of people do. But come and try something different. WrestleRex is a little bit different than the independent shows just because of the atmosphere that it brings and the location, the historic Rex Theater on Carson Street in Southside. It's a Thursday night. It's the week before Thanksgiving. You get an opportunity to see some great local guys. Definitely. We're always going to have great local wrestlers on there. We definitely want these guys to have the spotlight. But you get great international talent, former legends, and you never know what's going to happen or who's going to show up. It's a whole different vibe, but it's something that if you're a wrestling fan, if I wasn't working the shows, I would have definitely still been there, and I would have been as blown away as I was being in the ring. And it's just cool being able to be a part of, doing the podcast and sharing the stuff with you and with your audience as well, because, besides WrestleRex, which I said is more of a, it is definitely, it's encouraging. You don't have to be 21 to go, but it is definitely a PG-13 vibe as far as all that goes. But the shows that are in North Huntington, the Rumble on Route 30 on Saturday night, a big benefit for the North Huntington Police Department. You get to see a lot of great local wrestlers. You're still going to see really good quality local wrestling, but get to embrace that fun family vibe as well. And it's cool being a part of it. It's cool having outlets like your podcast to talk about it. And it's just cool being a part of this right now. And I mean, wrestling really right now is hot. It's hot on television, and it's hot locally, too. So, people, well, I would not say don't go to AEW. If you got tickets, I bought tickets. Go and have a great time. Embrace that. Sell those tickets and make sure there's still competition so wrestling stays big on the national level. But don't forget about us. We're the night after AEW. So if you're going to AEW the night before, spend $20 and come out and see what a great show WrestleRex is. Come out and support all the local independent promotions around the area, because these guys and gals, the guys that are working WrestleRex, they're not just working WrestleRex, they're working a bunch of other shows around here too. And the guys that are working the Rumble on Route 30, they're working other shows in Pittsburgh, in Ohio, in West Virginia. Support these guys, see these guys, because, hey, it wasn't that long ago that Britt Baker and some of these other guys were just working in local gymnasiums, and now they're on national television. So come out and see these guys and have your opportunity to see the future stars of tomorrow right in your backyard right now.
Great stuff, as always. That's Matt Vandriak. I'm Sean Meyers. Again, great talking to you, Matt. We'll catch you down the road again and do this in the future. That's going to do it for this edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling, but 5-Star Pod Wrestle on Twitter, 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling on Instagram, and we'll see you again next week right here on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling.